there's a number of points that are feedback from the from my coaches of colour in my study to white coaches. So the first is their perception of the coaching space. So they perceive the coaching space to be a white space, a space that they didn't feel was welcoming. In fact, they felt it was a hostile space, a space they felt was for white middle-class women. And in fact, this perception is backed up by statistics which show it is overwhelmingly, the coaches are overwhelmingly white, and a large proportion are women. And I can see it in my own experience. So the coaches felt that this was not a space where they felt their best interests would be felt and looked after. And a lot of the coaches spoke about their negative experiences of white people and of white institutions. So this obviously justified why they therefore would be very mistrustful and wary of a space they saw as a white space, so the coaching space. And also, I think this is very important to have an awareness of this and how this can affect the dynamic of a coaching relationship. If the coachee is coming into it feeling that they already are excluded from that particular space, and it's a space that they don't feel they belong to. As a result, also, it may be important for the coachee to be recommended to a white coach by somebody that they already trust. It's probably also true for, mentors as well. So the second feedback from my coaches to white coaches would be to understand that talking about ethnicity is truly exhausting to a coachee of colour. And as a result, they may avoid these discussions, even though, their experience of ethnicity in a white space is very pertinent to them and can be very pertinent to their reasons for coming to coaching. And it's important for coaches to respect that this is a difficult conversation, and to respect that it might be avoided. As relationships develop, and trust develops, this can change. And it explains, why there's a preference for coaches of colour to be coached by a mentor or a coachee of colour, and why there's better outcomes for these coachees when they are matched by similar ethnicity, or at least a coachee of colour. And one of the reasons that my coaches spoke a lot about was the fact that there's no explanation required when you're talking to a coachee of colour. So, whereas with a white coach, we haven't had that lived experience. So therefore there's this exhausting, draining explanation required. And also these explanations or discussions of ethnicity, they've often had experiences of them not going very well, and have had, where they've experienced microaggressions or outright racism as a result of these discussions. So it's totally understanding why they would find these discussions exhausting and why they might avoid them. And then the last feedback is for a white coach to not try and claim to have any real understanding of what it is to be a person of colour. So my coachee said that they found it very difficult when white people do that. That it is, it's impossible for us to have any real lived understanding of what it is to not be white. It's beyond our understanding. We can listen and be curious, but we haven't lived that. And so it's very important to be honest about that. And it's respectful to be honest about it. It also links again to strategies that we need to be aware of as coaches and mentors who are white, that strategies that might work for us or for a white coachee or mentee might not be appropriate for a coachee of colour, because they're coming from a very different experience than us. So they would be the three main feedbacks: that coaching is seen as a white space. Discussing ethnicity is a difficult thing to do, and we need to respect that. And we need to acknowledge that we have no direct lived experience of ethnicity beyond whiteness.